When you want to design a Star Wars-inspired attack craft, there's a pretty good chance that your work will be inspired by, for instance, Ralph McQuarrie, one of the absolute greats in the industry. And talking about this design, I was inspired by several of Ralph's designs, actually. And to understand what that means, we gotta visit a few popular franchises that were all mimicking Star Wars at the time. And all that can work to your advantage if you play your cards right. You can decide whether or not I did in this video. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the result, but there's one banger of a problem. Welcome to Technovo. My name is Rasmus. I have 20 years of professional experience in the games industry, working as a concept artist and an art director. And I'm on a mission to inspire and empower your creativity by talking about design, creative processes, aesthetics, and things like that. And why don't we do that? All right, before we record, I just want to take you through some feedback I got on the TIE Fighter from last video. Thomas the Man says, looks like a bat. Yeah, did you watch the video? Yeah. Thomas the Man says, actually, I like Easy Henry's designs better. Okay. Let's check out some other ones here. Ryan Clark 4674 says, these are totally unreal ships. However, they should have an implicit design logic. It should seem as if physics, engineering, and strategy tactics inform the design. TIE fighters with silly wings pointing in every imaginable direction completely undermine any sense of design logic. Looks like an X-wing with a bit of asymmetry of other designs, e.g. the Falcon. We're way past peak TIE design kit bashing. Alright, so you feel like this design is how I feel about most uglies. It's busy and chaotic. Okay, alright, I can dig it. Haggis McFreedom says, I'm not a galaxy-brained engineer or anything, but the solar panels of the TIE series seems to me to be the equivalent of putting blinders on a horse. It seems a far more logical, practical, and economically feasible to mount them in the dorsal and vertical placement, slightly behind the cockpit. Try driving your car with all your side windows covered in black cardboard and duct tape, then imagine doing that while dealing with people shooting at you from a multitude of directions. Yeah, we get it. You can't see anything in a TIE fighter, for sure. And that's totally stupid. I'll get back to this point from a different perspective in a sec. Hang on. Let's see if I can find it. Here we have Kira Nao says, for me the initial TIE fighter is like an all-seeing eye. The eye of the Emperor which you can't escape. With blinders on side like a horse to make them avoid seeing larger so they can focus and be mastered by the Cavalier. That's the TIE fighter. A blind soldier of a superpowered empire designed to hunt you down. Your design here is really cool. The shapes are amazing, but with time, TIE fighter types we see, like Vader's TIE, the Bomber's one, and the Interceptor one, have that one thing in common. Their blinders are hiding even more than usual what's on the side of the ship. Your design is the opposite, with its wings set outwards, look more like an open thing, which doesn't fit with the overall Imperial feel of cultural blindness and servitude. Oh my god, I love that take. That's so awesome. And an eyeball in space with the same blinders on, which if you're a technically minded person, or let's say a logically minded person, or you're a dad who likes to critique science fiction when you watch it on the TV, you go, that's stupid, you can't see anything. But here's somebody who understands that there can be a rationale that is poetic, that is aesthetic and different from just purely logical. I think that's a nice take, and I really enjoyed reading that, so thanks for that. Oh yeah, and here, in terms of color, I was asking you guys if you knew why the shade of the models changed so much. Darth Folo says, from what I heard, the TIE fighters were originally intended to be a blue shade, but there were issues with the keying for the blue screen in New Hope, so they were made gray. In Empire and Jedi, they had switched to green screen and were thus able to go with the original idea. Fun fact, apparently the A-Wing was supposed to be green, hence Green Squadron, but was repainted red because of keying issues with the green screen. So, fun things about production there. I figured it was something like that, but I wasn't quite sure, so thanks for getting back to me on that one. So in short, Thanks for the feedback. It's really cool. It seems like a lot of you felt it was busy and not balanced in a way you appreciate it. Feels like a lot of you see the attack bat that I was describing, and I'm happy about that. That's cool. And then there was a equal weight of people feeling that either it was silly, stupid, didn't fit the rules. Why does the wings bend outwards? Things like that. And then the people coming from the angle that the Empire ship should be really geometrical and this felt too organic for that. And I really appreciate that feedback. In terms of having TIE fighters that feel like an eyeball, a naked eyeball, blaring through space with the blinders on is just a gorgeous analogy. I really love that. So super cool. Thanks for the discussions. Let's keep doing this. Anyway, back to the video. So the most obvious place for this conversation to start is with the design of the Snowspeeder from The Empire Strikes Back. Legendary design that mixes a sort of simplistic tank-like, almost like a Tiger tank. If a Tiger tank was a sports car, was a speeder craft, kind of a vibe. And I absolutely adore it. But understanding where this design came from, we gotta go a little bit back. We gotta go back to Buck Rogers, which was a movie that Ralph McQuarrie also worked on in the late 70s. And I've looked up on IMDb and Wikipedia and things like that, and I can't quite figure out exactly what the, let's say, cadence of these different productions were. But if we see this image here, where we have pre-Thunderfighter design on a desolate moon somewhere, and we take a look at this design where clearly the Thunderfighter has become a Viper from Battlestar Galactica, it's clear that there's some conceptual shenanigans going on. McQuarrie was working on both of those projects, as well as The Empire Strikes Back, and of course Star Wars, etc. And beyond the fact that he had a vibe within himself in terms of the designs that he was doing and a certain way of portraying cockpits and things like that, also a certain way of having a double-barreled approach to these types of ships, it's clear that that these designs influenced each other. Well, first of all, because he was the guy doing them, but also maybe he was in a certain phase where a certain type of design, he had to exercise that. Obviously, with designs like this, Joe Johnston was over as well, and I'm sure a bunch of other artists, and a bunch of designs was made, including this strange Y-wing cockpit thing. What the hell is this? And if we take a look at this nice rendering by Mike Hansen of Japetus, again we see the two pylon type missile containing double-barreled, what do you say, forward-leaning missile ducts. I'm struggling here, you know what I mean. And of course we compare them to the Snowspeeder. We see that these two in particular, and then the Thunderfighter, the original Thunderfighter illustration here, we see that there's certainly a theme. And for me, that theme was really, really core to this idea. If we go into Blender, we take a look at this ship design at an angle that we can recognize here. We see that for my design as well, this is really key, this double-barreled approach, if you will. The change is probably that my center body is a little bit more soft and a little bit more, organic in its design, where the Thunderfighter certainly has a very wedgy, very angular approach. But I was certainly inspired by both the Thunderfighter and the Snowspeeder. I was really inspired by mainly the double barrels, but also the sensation of something, I suppose, that is a secondary bank of wings or something. I really like that, and my design shares that with the Thunderfighter for sure. So beyond the lower wings and the double barrel, what really defines this ship is the center forward cockpit that has that brutal square appearance that we see in all of these designs we just mentioned before. It has that utilitarian, unloved appearance, I would say. And all of this leading back to a design cue that it shares with the speeder, namely this particular little gun here. And I'll be happy to report to you guys that it has a nice, wonderful, wide firing range. What is that? 170 degrees maybe? And also if we look at the front, it's a similar story. It's a really, really wide angle. And for those of you who appreciate the logical approach to spaceship design, for those of you who think, let's say, mechanically and tactically, that should be a good story. I have a little cockpit in here where you can imagine a little co-pilot / gunner sitting. Again, similar to what we see in the Snowspeeder. Where this design is quite different from, I think, from the other mentioned designs, is this somewhat more organic and rounded front fuselage shape that has again more of maybe a Blackbird inspired flavor or traditional jet fighter flavor. And I think I was really inspired by the Snowspeeder was the sense of these flaps here at the rear. Here in this case, they feel like they could be thrust deflectors or something like that. Whereas in the Snowspeeder, and here you see a take by Joe Johnston where you can see sort of an early rendering of that air brake in action. Where in my design, it's more of a thrust vectoring device, but at the same time, I think there's a clear sense of relationship between these two. Yeah, all well and good. Only problem is I like this sketch better. Yeah. See you next time.